what it is. And it's just, sometimes it's an ID10T error, and I will freely admit that. So
Gentlemen, how you doing?
Peter, good to see you.
Good to see you, David. Van, good to see you.
Hey, Uncle Peter, how you doing?
I'm living the dream, living the dream.
Uncle Peter, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one yet. So
Hey, Jake, you want to turn off your TV or whatever is in the background that's flashing the greens and yellows?
here.
What was that?
Every once in a while, I do see that every once in a while. Some people just get a strange connection. I don't know. Maybe I'll blame Zoom instead of me.
I don't know what that was, but I was both muted and had my video off, so I don't know how you were seeing.
I don't know. Beats me. All right. It is 10 o'clock right here on the dot. I'm sure we got more people coming in. We had over 100 people register, and I capped it at 100. I am recording this right now, so I will rebroadcast it later because I had a little bit of some technical issues, but that's not always unusual for me. So first of all, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoy holding these sessions, and especially with our guest speaker. Real quick, I have 2 announcements to make. And in fact, real quick, I'm going to share my screen. The first one is at the end of September, I am hosting a virtual practice building summit. Let me pull up the link here. It's with the IARFC Association, and we got a credible lineup of speakers for that one. Let me share my screen. And here we are. So this virtual summit is going to be over Zoom, and I'm going to be the host. And I got Tom Love, Gail Goodman, Bill Cates, Kelly Smith, Joel Weldon, Sanjay Tolani, Sandy Chassel, Judy Hoberman, Arwen Becker, and Jeremy Nason. We're all coming together for 2 whole days. We're going to talk about a lot of different things to help you with your practice. And so there is a cost to that, but go here, and I'm going to put this in the chat, iarfc.org/events 2023 virtual, and you'll get information on registering for that. If you decide to register and you're not a member, your dues for attending will be discounted from your dues of joining the association if you decide to do that. The second one, which is you think I'd have this all set up. Okay, the next one is the Professionals Forum. This is coming up next February, the 28th through March 1st. And of course, Van is a distinguished speaker. We got Tom Love, who is the founder and the creator of the Professionals Forum. Jim Ruda, Sandy Chassel, Turner Thompson. These are the major speakers that have been announced. The only credit, for the record, the only credit I take is that I helped bring some of that together. But this is Tom's vision. He's making this happen, and he's been creating some magic on this, and there's even more magic to come. Really excited about this. So make sure you keep that in mind. This is going to be, again, in Nashville, February 28th through March 1st. And after saying that, thank you so much. I don't know if Van really needs an introduction. Over 30 years of consecutive top of the table performance and production, been a mentor for so many in the industry. And I was just thrilled. He asked me to come on. I'm like, okay, let's figure this out, when to do it. And we finally figured out a date, and here we are. So Van, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do about 30 minutes. Van is going to give his, for lack of a better term, a monologue. And then obviously he's going to teach us some great questions. And then from there, we're going to open up to Q&A. I've got the first one. Brian Summerfield has the second one. We're going to open it all up. Put your questions in the chat. Raise your digital hand. We'll go from there, and we'll make things happen. So Van, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, everybody. The reason I asked to do this is you don't get a chance to give feedback. So I'm going to spend maybe 20, 25, 30 minutes doing a little bit of a monologue about how to get more appointments and what I think the issues of the day are and why it's so important to be at meetings like this. And then I'm very excited to answer anybody's questions that they have about how they could get more appointments. Are any of the ideas that I'm going to share, are they easily transferable, so forth, so on. And so I just was looking for a way to get where I could share ideas with as many people as possible. So this is what I did. So thank you for attending, and I will try not to waste your time. I'm an agent. I hate it when anybody wastes my time. Most of the meetings that I've been attending of late, I won't name names of the organizations, but they have been, a couple of them I asked for my money back. They were so bad. It's not valuable information. The foundation of everything that I do is based on this. I believe the hardest thing to do in the insurance industry, in the financial services industry, is to have enough appointments. And statistically, everything that we read and learn, the average amount of applications sold in the United States, according to LIMRA, is 54 apps a year. 54. And in Canada, it's actually 45 apps a year, 45 apps a year. Now, I've actually been able to do that in a week sometimes. So that's not something I even understand. I was taught from the very beginning of my career that the secret of this was getting in front of as many people as possible. I wasn't very good at it at the beginning, and I struggled for 16 years. Very, very much. And I became a very ugly, hateful, hurtful insurance agent, person, whatever. And I lucked out and somebody saved me from myself. And that began my second career in the insurance industry, which allowed me to have some success for the next 35 years in the business. And the way that they taught me was, they showed me how to have great conversations with people, and that my opinion did not matter. And that the fastest way to show somebody that I was interested in them was to ask about them and not talk about me. And the fastest way to build trust was to inquire about them. Why are you doing this? One of my really hot questions right now, and people laugh like crazy when I ask, I say, can I ask you something? When did you and your family make a conscious decision? What date was it that you made a conscious decision that you were going to make the Internal Revenue Service the primary beneficiary of your IRA, your 401k, or 403b? And they chuckle a little, and I say, no, I'm serious. You've obviously done that, because isn't that what's going to happen? See, I still haven't told them anything. I'm just asking them lots of questions because I want to have a conversation with them. Everything I do is about having a conversation. I don't ever tell anybody anything. Please don't be angry at me. I don't know anything. I haven't gotten one call from Joe Biden. He didn't give me a heads up that he was going to screw up the economy for the last few years. All the presidents previous to that, nobody ever called me and said, hey, we're going to do a lousy job as president. And so, and I hope I'm not offending anybody, but they didn't give me a heads up that they were going to screw up the economy really bad. I never got any of those heads up. And so, to be honest with you, when you talk about things like the economy, everybody's lying to us right now. The government's lying to us. Wall Street's lying to us. The banks are lying to us. And I want to be careful how I say this, but even there are now many insurance companies that are not being very accurate with the information that they're sharing with us. And it's frightening to me. And so what I'm trying to figure out a way to do is to not insert my opinion. I want to find out the opinion of my customer, my prospect, my client, and I want to have a great conversation with them about what if there was a way that even if you and I didn't know anything, nothing, if everything that we were told, we couldn't be sure it was accurate, what if we could design a strategy that would allow us to never be harmed by any of those situations? And I have a surprise for you, even better. What if we could build a strategy that would take advantage of those situations as they occurred without being harmed first? And you know what's so exciting about that, everybody? And you know this to be a fact. We're the only industry that can do that. That's it. We sell the only products that you can't lose any money: a cash value life insurance policy, a fixed interest annuity, a fixed indexed annuity, things of that nature. We sell those products. So, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, what if we could design a strategy where you wouldn't be harmed by anything that occurred, but every time something bad occurred, we would have access to that money to take advantage of the opportunities as they presented themselves, so that we could take advantage of it? Wouldn't that be an amazing strategy? And wouldn't you actually be excited rather than worried about every time a bad thing happened, because now you'd have an opportunity to take advantage of it? See, what I learned a very long time ago is I used to be known, especially in the beginning, when I started doing speaking after I had a couple of years of success. I got to be known as somebody who talked a lot about all the bad economic news that was going on. Oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And what I really learned is that I had done a terrible job of sharing exactly what it was that I did. I had done a terrible job, because people do not buy bad news. There's no way. They buy access to opportunity. And that's what we can provide. We can show that, listen, we only use the bad news to get their attention. Boy, are you worried about the climate stuff? And let me ask you something. Do all of you out there, just you guys that are attending this meeting, is there going to be additional costs for all this stuff that's going on with droughts and tornadoes and hurricanes and floods? And can you even imagine? I've been to Hawaii 20 times. Lahaina is one of my favorite places on planet Earth. Can you even imagine? They've had 2 years of COVID destroying their economy, and now almost all of Lahaina is burnt to the ground. How do they recover from that? How does a climate built, a economy built on people, tourism, how is that going to survive? And what's it going to cost to fix that? And so on and so on. I mean, I could talk about economics for hours and hours and hours, and I don't want to do that with you. I think everything is a lie. Just a real quick little number with you. You know, we were 31 trillion in debt in October of 2022. By June of 2023, we were 32 trillion in debt. And a month and a half later, we're 32.7 trillion in debt. According to the US debt clock, we will be 55 trillion in debt by 2031, and by 2053, according to the Congressional Budget Office report that just came out, we'll be $144 trillion in debt. Guys, that means we're going to be printing a load of money. We can't create that kind of growth in an economy. So we're going to have serious inflation. We're going to see the destruction of the purchasing power of money. Lots of stuff is going to be different. We have globally, we have China for the first time showing negative GDP growth, and their population is decreasing. They're not replacing the existing people. And so therefore, where are they going to get the money to take care of 550 million baby boomers? I mean, it's astonishing what's all going on. Japan prints 70% of its economy. The European Union still has 8 to 10% inflation, 8% in the European Union, 10% in Great Britain. I mean, guys, think about this. It's astonishing what's happening in our world as far as economics are concerned. And where are we going to get the money? Where are governments going to get the money to pay for Social Security and Medicare? And please, I hope you'll laugh at this, but I have every intention of working another 50 years as an insurance agent, which means I'm going to collect another 50 years of Social Security. And I'm not going to vote for anybody who's going to harm my Social Security. And if you just read the latest report that came out, there are now 100 million Americans over the age of 55 years old. What a great time to be an insurance and financial professional. We can get in front of these people, ask them a few questions, and inspire them what's so great about being an American. You know what it is? All of these failures, all of these things that I'm talking about, government, Wall Street, the bank, Wall Street's lying to, they're loaded with derivatives, loaded. The mutual funds are loaded with derivatives. It's astonishing. The banks, another report just came out. There's at least another 20 some banks that they're willing to say out loud that are in the same position as Silicon Valley Bank. And there's many others who are being more honest and predicting it's closer to 2,000 banks. Are they going to let any of those banks fail? No, they're going to print more money. That's what they do. And so what a great time to sell dollars that you can buy with pennies. That's how you beat inflation. What a great time to be able to use a dollar that can do the work of many dollars. My dollar can take care of you if you die too soon, live too long, self-completing if you're disabled. It pays for critical illnesses like heart attack, strokes, and cancer. Has the ability to pay for long-term care, and if you use it, the death benefit will replenish the asset that you used while you were alive, so that the person that took care of you will now have the money to be taken care of. A spectacular time for us in a world that is being created perfectly for a professional insurance and financial advisor. It's just a great time to do what we do, but we can't sell products. And here's why. In this wonderful time that we live in, Americans are taught in 5 to 15 second spurts of information. According to every study, there's now at least 8 of them that say Americans have an attention span of approximately 8 seconds. And they go on to continue and say that a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. It's in the study. It's not, they're not making it up. I mean, I think they're being a little humorous, I'm hoping, but here's my point. If you give the most glorious sales presentation that you've ever given in your life, where it's factual and amazing and wonderful, 8 seconds into your presentation, they're already gone. Because if they're not participating, if they are not reasoning out for themselves what it is that they're doing, you're not gonna. Now, please don't misunderstand me. A lot of you can raise your hand and say, well, Van, I've made sales doing those kinds of presentations. And I know you do, because I can see some of your pictures. You're good looking, you have great personalities. I don't have any of that. Not good looking. I don't have a great personality. I'm very shy. I'm very much a loner. I want you to understand, I learned how to do this. Somebody said, hey, if you will learn a few questions, what if you could inspire people to take action? And for 16 years, I said, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And for 16 years, I failed. And then I lucked out, I got fired. And when I got fired, I then said, what the heck, I might as well try this. And then I just had this amazing success. I'm literally, guys, really listen to me. I'm 100 appointments behind right now. I can't catch up, because every time I make a presentation, the customer says, man, I got some other people you should talk to. I don't even have to ask for a referral. They're so pleased with the information that they're excited to share it with somebody else. Because you know why? They reasoned it out for themselves that they should be worried about these things. And in my sales presentation, I can do LEAP, Bank on Yourself, Circle of Wealth, Tom Hagner's presentation, David McKnight's Power of Zero. I can do all of those in 5 questions, and it'll only take me less than 10 minutes. Now, I'm not telling you that I make the sale. What I'm telling you is that I will know after that period of time whether or not my prospect or client is ready to go forward. So I don't waste any time. I can also tell in those 5 questions if my customer will never go forward. So again, I don't waste any time with them. I spend a couple of minutes and I find out, hey, they're not going to do anything with me. And so what ends up happening is, because I find out they're not going to do anything with me, I do even have questions for them. I say, boy, this isn't just the right time for us. So before I go, can I just leave you with 2 questions and then I'll get out of your hair? And they're going, dodged a bullet. And the first question I say to him is, hey, promise me you'll remember that if this gets really bad and you don't get the help you thought you were going to get, or you're just small potatoes to your other advisor, or you maybe even don't really have an advisor, will you remember that I can stop the bleeding immediately? Will you promise me you'll remember that? And they go, yeah. I say, that's not the important question. Here's the important question. Promise me you'll remember that once we stop the bleeding, we still can put you in a position to take advantage of what's happening. Will you promise me you'll remember that? Yes. Oh, it's so great to meet you. Now, you're not going to believe me, but 50 to 75% of those people call me back because they were lying to me. They were just trying to get rid of me. You understand? And so, again, you don't burn any bridges. My job is to build a career, build a relationship with the communities that I'm in. So here's the 5 questions. And I'm going to do them very fast because I want to show you that I can do them before my half hour is up. Okay. Here's the first question. Do you think taxes will be higher in the future? Just yes or no? And they go, yeah. I said, with all the stuff that you see happening around our country right now, do you think it's possible taxes could even be way higher in the future? They think about it for a minute and they go, yeah, I think so. And I said, now, this is what other agents do. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the difference between me and the things that we teach. I take that back. I want to phrase this correctly. I don't believe in teaching. There is no teaching. There is only learning. I can't teach anything to anybody who doesn't want to learn it. Okay. So what I do is help people to learn things if they're willing. Okay. If that makes any sense to you. So here's the deal. So here's what most agents do. You think taxes will be higher in the future? Yeah, I think they'll be higher in the future. Oh, I got a policy. I got a strategy. And boom, they just announced I'm a salesperson. And I don't do that at all. Watch this. I make them beg me to help. You think taxes will be higher in the future? Yeah, I do. You think it's possible they could be way higher in the future? And watch what I do now. I say, now I'm about to ask you a question that I bet you nobody else has ever asked. I bet you have other advisors, you have other insurance agents, you have an accountant, you have an attorney, you have a banker, you have a trust officer, you have all these people. Not one of them has ever asked you this question. Are you ready? Just like that, I say. They go, okay, yeah, what is it? I say, do you want to pay those taxes? They go, what? I said, do you want to pay those taxes? And they go, no. And I say, so man, what are you going to do? And they go, well, geez, I don't know. So you're just going to let them come and take all your money? Well, no. So what's your strategy to make sure that they're not going to come and take all your stuff? Well, I don't have one. So you're just, so really you, after all of this, you've decided that you're going to let the Internal Revenue Service come and decide how much of your stuff they're going to take. And finally, they'll say something to me like, well, what would you do? What would you recommend? If you were in my shoes, how would you do it? What did they just do? Because I was patient and waited for them to ask me to help them, I'm no longer a salesperson. I'm their advocate. I'm their advisor. I'm their counselor. That's how I was trained. That's what I learned how to do. And it only takes a few additional seconds to be patient and wait for them to say, well, geez, I never thought about any of this. If you were in my shoes, how would you deal with this? Or what would you do? Or how would you handle this? And now they invited you to help them. That's just the first question. And it should always be the first question because it is our advantage in the industry. It's not the most major problem. Listen to me carefully. I'm so sick of the industry not getting this. Taxes isn't going to destroy your life. Taxes isn't fun, but it's not going to destroy your life. But emotionally, Americans, their hearts are carved out of them because they don't want to pay too much taxes. So you use it because it's emotional and it's our competitive advantage. The second one, I'm going to deviate for a second. This isn't the second question, but the second thing that's emotional, study after study, brand new study, says Americans are more concerned with running out of income in retirement than they are with dying. Can you even imagine? Old men, listen to this, elderly gentlemen can become old men if they run out of income. Dignified women become bag ladies if they run out of income. And I ask them about that. Now, those are the two emotional issues that you should always lead with. That's how you get the appointments. What if we could, here's the thing. Do you want to be rich, or do you want an absolute positive guarantee that you will never be poor? And they go, well, 99% of the time, I swear to you, they'll say, well, I want to guarantee that I'll never be poor. And I look at them and I say, well, what if we could show you a way? Honest, even if you completely ran out of money, you'd never run out of income. In these uncertain times, my goodness, wouldn't you want to have that information, even if you didn't do anything? If there was no cost or obligation, promise I won't try to sell you anything. And I believe you'll be so pleased with the information that when I'm done, you'll walk me to my car and hold my car door open for me. You think you can find me 45 minutes in the next week or two? I barely have anybody who ever says no. Do you understand? And I'm talking about people that I walk up to in the grocery store, that change the tires in my oil in my car, that the butcher at the butcher store. I'm telling you, they want to know about this stuff. They don't want to know about policies. They don't want to know about interest rates. They don't want to know about cash value. They don't want to know about premiums, but they want to know how to not run out of income in retirement. They want to know how to reduce their income tax liability and be in control of how much the government takes. So the first question was, think taxes will be higher. Second question is, do you think benefits will be lower in the future? Higher deductibles, higher premiums, more out-of-pocket expense. Doesn't that mean a lower standard of living for you and your family? Are you okay with that? They always say, well, no. I say, so what's your strategy to make sure that if all of those things happen, that you can easily replace those lost benefits? And when would you want to do that, before or after you lose the benefits? See, 2 times now, if you're paying attention, I asked an action question. What action do you want to take? See, we don't do that. We're so afraid to say, take some action. Ask them, what action are you going to take? Third question, if we have higher premiums and lower, if we have higher taxes and lower benefits, is that going to be enough to fix our economy? And the answer is no. So the government's going to have to print more what? And that's money. What do they call that? That's inflation. I say, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, do you know they have an additional name for that now? They're so frightened of it. They call it the stealth tax. Yeah. Can I give you an example? If you retire at age 65 on $50,000 a year, and we have just 7% inflation, using the accounting rule of 72, 7 into 72 means in approximately 10 years, you'd need $100,000 at age 85. At age 75, in order to have the same purchasing power that you had with 50,000 at the age of 65. And if you live to 85, which is pretty much what a 65-year-old person lives to if they make it to 65, you'd need, listen to this, $200,000 a year. You're retired, you're not working anymore. How are you going to get to 200,000? What's your strategy? And what if there was a way to use inflation to your benefit rather than to harm you? When would you want to do that? Before or after the inflation gives you problems? Please, you're going to have so much fun with this. Fourth question. If we have higher taxes and lower benefits, and the government's going to print more money, and that's called inflation, isn't that going to cause more and more volatility? And let me ask you something. If you make a mistake, could you lose some money? If you make 5 mistakes, could you lose a lot of money? So what's your strategy? And I hold my hand down low to not be hurt by the bad volatility. And gosh darn it, what if there was a strategy that would allow you to take advantage of every time there's good volatility? When would you want to know about that? Before or after the next downturn? And last but not least, I say to them, there's a man in our industry who retrained all of us. His name is Tom Hegna. I tell him, Google him. He has taught us something that we didn't make a big deal out of before. And he said, wouldn't there be nothing worse on the planet than living longer than your money? And in fact, he actually taught us, that's what I tell him, he actually taught us that living too long is a risk multiplier, because if you live too long, then you have to deal with all those other 4 issues: higher taxes, lower benefits, inflation, and volatility, more and more and more than you ever would have. And I say, let me ask you in a different way. If you retire at 65 and you die at 70, we can have any trouble planning your retirement? Of course not. But if you retire at 65 and you live till you're 95, and you run out of money when you're 72 years old, can I ask you something? Be honest with me. What do you think the rest of your life would look like? And I shut up. And listen to me. Their imagination is more vivid than anything I could ever describe. they think of the worst possible things that could happen. And I let them stew on that. And then I ask them, what if there was a way you'd never have to worry about any of this ever again? When would you want to get started? And at very least, even if you didn't do anything, wouldn't you want to go through the process so for sure you know that you could do something? I do that, guys. I bet you I do that 100 times a week, what I just did with you. 100 times a week. So if you multiply that times, it's 5,000 times a year. I'm pretty well practiced. And I do it at baseball games, and you don't want to sit next to me on an airplane, you're toast. Yeah, you don't want, I mean, you're just toast. You don't want to sit next to me at a baseball game, football game, basketball game, because I'm just asking you questions. Boy, how you doing? Isn't this amazing what's happening in our country? What are you doing to make sure that they're not going to take away your money, that they're not going to harm you? I sell people in grocery stores. Here's a hot one in a grocery store. Walk up to a lady in Sendik's grocery store in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I say to her, hi, my name's Van Mueller. I'm an insurance agent. Please, I swear to you, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just terrified that I'm not doing this as well as I could be doing it. And you would help me a ton if I could just ask you a couple of questions, take less than a minute. I'd really love your opinion. Your opinion could help a lot of people. And I said, if in any way you consider this an imposition, I'll be happy to buy you some grapes or a melon or something. She says, no, I'd actually be kind of interesting to see what the question is, because I set it up. So I said to her, I said, do you think it would be more beneficial? I took the word smarter out of my dictionary. I no longer ask a customer if it's smarter to do anything, because that's an attack on their intelligence. I use words, the words matter. Isn't that what we've been taught by all the greats in our industry? The words matter. Would it be more beneficial to take a tax deduction on a small amount of money when taxes are as historically low as they'll probably ever be for the rest of our life, and build it into a gigantic pile of money that the government can tax at any level they want in any amount that they choose in the future? Or would it be more beneficial to pay your taxes now on a small amount of money when taxes are historically as low as they'll probably ever be, and transfer a big pile of money to the future that the government can never get their hands on ever again? So, ma'am, this is what I need to know, and then I'll be done. Which do you think would be most beneficial? Would it be the first one or the second one? This is what she did, I swear to you. She went, come on, that's easy. That's what she said. And she said, well, it's the second one. And I said, ma'am, doesn't that leave another question? And she goes, well, what is that? And I said, then why are you and your husband doing the first one? And here's the punchline, guys. This is the punchline. She said, I didn't realize that's what we were doing. So by a little story, a little conversation, she came to the realization of the understanding of what tax deferral is. I turned and said, ma'am, I can't tell you, you have no idea how many people you've helped. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I turned to walk away, and she said, wait a minute. I said, what? What did I'm trying to keep my promise. What did I do wrong? She said, I want one of your cards. I said, ma'am, I really meant it. I was just trying to get your opinion. She says, no, you can't walk away from me without giving me one of your cards. 3 days later, her and her husband called me. I'm in a grocery store. They gave me $700,000 in a freaking grocery store. Now, am I telling you that's what you should do to prospect? No, but amongst your circle of friends, can you do that? One last thing, and then I'll be done. Here's another thing that I'm trying to sell to everybody that's an agent in our business, whether you're a property and casualty agent, whether you're just a life insurance agent, whether you sell annuities and life insurance, whether you sell Medicare supplements, whether you sell property and casualty. I have scripts for that. Listen to this. We've forgotten what we do. I make a bet with property and casualty agents and Medicare supplement agents that I can pretty much almost get an appointment with every single one of their existing customers or anybody that they're going to sell. Watch how I do it. I call on the phone. I say, hi, this is Van Mueller from your company. The reason we're calling, you're not going to believe this, but are you guys okay? With everything that's going on in our country right now, we were just worried, is everything okay? And the second thing that I wanted to ask you is, do you have any questions about what's going on? I mean, gosh, there must be some concerns you have. And we just want to make sure you know we're available to answer those questions. And finally, and this is the most important reason why we called, just want to say thank you. And we were looking for a way to show you how loyal we are to you. You've been so loyal to us. You've been spectacular customers. And the only way we know how to say thank you to you is if we could meet with you for a half an hour to 45 minutes and ask you 7 to 10 questions. And these 7 to 10 questions would help you clarify in your own mind. First of all, with everything that's going on in our country, do we have anything to worry about? Second, gosh, what if there was a way that we could get kept safe? And watch what I do now. This is very important. Really listen. I say, and the thing that we just haven't done a good enough job on in the past, and we want to make sure we make up for it, is what if there was actually a way that you could take advantage of all of this mess rather than being hurt by it? Gosh, it's the only way we know how to show you that we're as loyal to you as you've been to us. We appreciate your business so much. Thank you. Is there any chance you could meet with us in the next week or two? It'll only take half an hour to 45 minutes. I'm listening to me. I can get an appointment with anybody doing that, with anybody. And I practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. And I can do it for people that bought a Medicare supplement, people that are property and casualty, people that bought life insurance or an annuity. And you get back in front of them, and please, you're not going to believe this, but when you make your first sale, you should already be setting up your next sale. And that's what this is about. So even somebody I sold 30 days ago, do you understand that the news is such nowadays that we can actually call somebody up who we sold a month ago and say, man, did you see everything that's happening? And gosh, I want to make sure I don't have you be one of the people that misses out. And then you say, I want to make sure you're all right. Do you have any questions? And finally, what if there was a way that instead of being harmed by all this stuff, you could take advantage of it? And I don't think I did a good enough job about that when I was there with you. Would it be okay if we got together again for half an hour, 45 minutes? They love it. They're so sick of everybody telling them they got the answer. I'm not telling them anything. I'm saying, hey, can I ask you some questions to help you clarify? They want to have a relationship. And now again, last, and then I'm done. And then I'll just open it up to questions. Study after study says that most advisors lose their customers because they don't have enough contact with them. I have contact with all of them to the point where they have to say, oh, it's you again? And I say, you bet your life it's me again. And I make fun of it. I say, you're never going to get rid of me. I'm going to take such good care of you. Isn't that what you want from your person like me? And I don't ever call myself an advisor or anything. I because I'm a speaker, I've gotten away from using that word because they don't want you to use that word when you're giving speeches because it connotates certain things. So I don't use it even in my contact with my customers. I just have these great and I call them conversations, not presentations, conversations. And I'm just having a blast. And what I'm hoping that you're seeing as you're watching me, I adore what I do. I started January 23rd, 1973. I've been an agent for 50 years and now 7 months. I love and adore what I do so much. And I'm going to keep doing it as long as I live because I really feel like I'm having a great time and I matter. That's kind of what you hope someday, is that you can do something that you love and where you make a difference. And that's what all of us do, all of us together. And so, again, I'm done talking. I will be happy to answer any of your questions. And I'm grateful that you took some of your precious time. I hope this was helpful. And please, one other thing, I don't know if all of you subscribe to my newsletter or not, but I have a monthly newsletter that now 5 days after the newsletter, we do a live Zoom, and then we record the Zoom, and that's included with your newsletter subscription, and you get to keep the Zoom forever so you can watch it over and over and over again. And all you have to do is you go to Van Mueller, VanMueller, vanmiller.com, and you can sign up. It's a web-based newsletter. You you sign up at vanmueller.com. I've been doing it for 16 years. There's now over 200 newsletters. I do all the work. I probably read 1,000 pages a day, every single day. And then I put together the best 250 articles that I can find of those articles. And then I narrow it down to the best 30 or 40 articles by reading the articles while I'm watching the only true sport left in America, which is WWE wrestling. If you can understand the article while you're watching wrestling, it's simple enough that everybody can understand it. And, it's the only true sport left in America is wrestling. 500-pound guy hits you in the face, you don't even get a bruise. It's real. So anyway, you guys, thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and I'll stick around as long as I can.
Wonderful. First of all, thank you so much. And yes, I did subscribe. I did get your newsletter. I did go through it. And yes, I did the exercise as you prescribed in here. Just want to let you know, I'm following instructions too. I'm a student like everybody else here. I'm going to lead off the questions. By the way, everybody put your questions in the chat or raise your digital hand. You know how the reactions work. And we'll get you guys called on. My first question is this, and I don't know if you can see it there, Van, but my daughter's here with us. She's getting her license either this week, next week, whatever her, the ink won't even be dry yet. As a father and as a top producer yourself, what would be your best advice for her getting started?
I jokingly answered you when we talked on the phone, and I'm going to give you the same answer.
And I'm going to pretend I'm not going to take personal offense, but I'm okay with this.
Do not let your father train you. You should allow somebody else. And I raised my hand and said I'd be willing to do that. And the number one thing that drives people out of our industry is not getting enough appointments. So you should learn great questions that will inspire people to want to meet with you. And that's the secret. And if you can learn those, you will survive long enough to learn the other skills you need. And by the way, your dad explained to me that you're in an agency. So here's the deal. You get an appointment. You ask a few of these questions. The customer says, well, I'd like this, this, and this. You take some notes. You come back to the office and you either ask for some additional information from one of the agents in the office, or you ask the customer, can I bring somebody back that I think is really, and the way you say it, they're really skilled in this area that you're talking to me about. And I would really love for them to hear this information. And the two of us together think that we could come up with some answers to the questions that you have. Would that be okay? And so for me, the secret, it's get enough appointments, learn the questions. Here's some hottest question in the business right now. Please, your daughter should learn this one right away. What's the best age to take your Social Security? And wait, before you answer, you know why we're asking you this? Do you know that over 93% of the people in our country take Social Security to their detriment? And gosh, wouldn't it be amazing if we could ask you a series of questions that would allow you to maximize rather than minimize this really important benefit, so that not only would it benefit you, but a lot of people don't realize that taking Social Security correctly also allows your spouse to have a wonderful benefit for a long period of time. And so maximizing Social Security is a vital piece of the retirement planning puzzle. Here's another question. If you're a young person, you walk up to parents that have kids and you say, can I ask you something? Do you think it's fair that when one parent dies and there's not enough money, that the children should end up losing both their parents? Isn't that going to be true? If there's not enough money, isn't the other parent going to have to work? Aren't they going to have to cook and clean and sew and do the laundry and all of these kinds of things? So let me ask you something. How much parent will be left? What if we could show you a very inexpensive way to make sure that you and your family would never have to worry about that issue? Do you think you could find me 45 minutes in the next week or two? And on and on. I have hundreds of those kinds of questions that I ask people all the time, you know, is there somebody at the Internal Revenue Service that you just decided you're so madly in love with them that you want to leave them a whole bunch of your money? And they chuckle a little bit and I say, you're laughing, but isn't that true of most people? When did you consciously decide that you were going to make the Internal Revenue Service the primary beneficiary of your IRA or your 401k, or your 403b or your 457 plan? I actually sold somebody in line in New York City. When I walked up to him, I heard him arguing, and I walked up and I said, do you think there's going to be another financial catastrophe like 2007 and 8? Just yes or no? And they said yes. And I said, so you want to happen this time what happened the last time? And they said no. And I said, so let me ask you something. Why do you make a decision to keep doing the same thing that you've always done, even though you know it's not going to work? And the wife looked at me and said, boy, you were listening. That's what we were arguing about. And I said, if there was no cost or obligation, promise I won't try to sell you a thing, swear on my kids, I'll even buy you lunch. Will you meet with me tomorrow? This was at midnight. So will you meet with me tomorrow? And I'll just ask you a series of questions that will allow you to figure out if there was a way that that would never happen to you again. And actually you could make up for the mistake that you made in 2007 and 8. They said, sure, we'd love to do that. They're my customers. So I want you to understand, it's the questions. It's inspiring people to say, yeah, I want more information. Let me say one more thing. I know how good all of you are. I see some people on here that I haven't seen for a long time. Neil, my God, you look amazing. And I miss you like crazy, spectacular. He's so freaking good looking. I hate him. You know, it's just ridiculous, but you got to this. No, this is important. Listen to this. Our customers are not stupid. They're not. They know that every one of us, no matter how nice we say it, oh, I just want to help people. Oh, I just want to take, that's baloney. We're coming to sell you, and they know it. And so here's how you get them. You find and develop a question that is so engaging, so important that they get the answer to, that even if they know you're coming to sell them something, they'll still give you the appointment. That's how you do this. And that's what I was trained to do, is to ask all these questions. And I can't run all the appointments. I can't. I'm having the time of my life. And everybody we show it to, there's some people that their faces are on here. They've seen that works also, that it works for them as well. So getting these appointments helps you to get in front of more people. I have so many questions like that are just fun. I live about 100 yards from Northwestern Mutual, and every July they come in and I have a lot of NML agents that I train. There's no downtown Milwaukee without Northwestern Mutual. It's a fantastic partner to our city. But NML agents are very arrogant. They think they got the best of everything. And I tell them all the time, I say, hey, you know, I've never lost to an NML agent. You guys don't even have a chance against me. Just drives them nuts. So they come into the city, and we're out in front of the Pfister Hotel, and it's beautiful outside, and there's a guy standing in the corner, and I'm with 5 NML agents. And I said to him, I can get an appointment with anybody. They said, I'll make you a deal. If you can get an appointment with that guy over there, we'll buy you a fantastic steak dinner at the Pfister Hotel. And I said, if I don't get the appointment, then I'll buy all of you guys dinner at the Pfister Hotel. So I walk up to the guy and I said, hi, my name's Van Miller. I'm an insurance agent. These people are all from NML. We ought to hug them and thank them for what they're doing for our city. But they made me a bet. You're not even going to believe it. They made me a bet. They bet me I couldn't get an appointment with you, and I bet them I could. So you have a watch. This is called a transition sentence. I learned it, and it makes everything easy. Ready? I looked at him and I said, come on, just have a little fun with me for just a couple of minutes. He said, okay. Now it takes all the pressure off. Just have a little fun with me. So I said to him, I said, let me ask you something. If you lost your job for 30 years, would that harm you and your family? And he went, well, yeah. And I counted to 3 in my head, and I looked at him. I said, be honest with me now. And don't you really want your answer? Isn't that retirement? He goes kind of back. Well, yeah. I said, so if we could show you a way that even if you completely ran out of money, you'd never run out of income. If there was no cost or obligation, promise on my kids that I won't try to sell you a thing. And all I'm going to do is ask you a series of questions that'll help you clarify in your own mind how you could make sure that would never happen. Wouldn't that be worth 45 minutes of your time? He said, no kidding, tell those guys you win the bet. This happens all the time. It's not a once in a while thing. And so it's just learning to have these great conversations with people to inspire them to want to find out about what it is all of you do. Next question. Rebecca, you got that? Don't let your dad come near you.
She's halfway across the country from me
I
right
don't
now.
care. Don't even talk to him on the phone, except say hi, Daddy.
I did say I tried not to take this personally, but I got you. Okay.
No, it's not personal. It's in lots of things, not just in insurance, but you have a different perspective than I do, or than Jeremy has, or than Mitchell or Michael has, or Bill has, or whatever.
Yep.
Peter, those guys all would say, well, you have to learn this, this, and this, and we're not going forward until you learn this, this, and this. We could give her some requirements that would be much more difficult for you to do. And so again, it's everything in insurance. If you really would talk to everybody that's on this screen, everything is about a process. The best insurance agents in America have a process that they follow every single time. I don't take any shortcuts. And remember I said I asked 5 questions. If the customer says yes after the first question, I don't stop there and try and sell them about taxes. I say, you know, that's really interesting, but then I talk to them about these other things. And what ends up happening is I end up with a much bigger case, a much different case than I would have had I stopped at just the taxes thing. It's just the process, and I'm so used to the process that I don't even have to think about it anymore. The other last thing, Rebecca, this is very important because 90% of the agents in America do this wrong, and Jeremy's going to shake his head yes because he's going to agree with me. Here's what we do wrong. We go to the fact finder too soon. We haven't earned the right to go to the fact finder until the customer or the member says, geez, what would you do if you were in my situation? We ask them a couple of questions and we say, we got some facts we got to ask you. And the customer's thinking, well, you don't have any right to ask me about how much I make or how much I have or what I've done. You've really, really short-circuited the building trust part. And 90% of the agents in America do it wrong. Do it wrong. Wait until they give you permission, then do the fact finder, and then the fact finder becomes a ridiculously powerful tool for making the sale. It's just we do it too early.
Why do you say I'm not going to try to sell you anything?
Because I don't want to sell them anything. Americans love to buy, they hate to be sold. I don't ever want to sell anybody anything anywhere, Tony, swear to you. If they're not willing to buy from me, I don't want them as a customer.
I agree that I want them to buy, but I guess to me it seems disingenuous to tell them I'm not going to sell you anything because all the questions are leading to them asking to make the purchase.
No, the questions are leading them to use their own common sense to reason out why they should take the action that they're taking. I don't tell them what to do. I give them choices. Never do I tell them what to do. And Tony, until you get over that hump, you won't get to your next level. Forgive yourself and never think the way you're thinking right now, because you're actually defeating yourself. You could do double the production you're doing the minute you stop and say, don't worry, I'm not going to try and sell you anything. I'm going to help you to buy something if you decide you want to go forward. And you could say it that way if you want, so you don't feel disingenuous, but we don't want to sell anybody anything. Americans love to buy. Americans hate to be sold. I can prove it to you, Tony. Do you like to shop ever? For anything?
Rarely.
Or for anything?
I mean, if there's something I have to have, I'll shop for
Okay,
it.
but if you walk in and a salesperson comes up and says, may I help you? What's the first thing you say?
Well,
No, thanks. I'm just looking.
no, normally I say, here's what I'm looking for. Where is it?
Then you're a very weird guy, Tony.
I am weird.
Well, you're not wrong.
And there's a big hug. There's a big hug for you. I don't mean it in
Right.
trying to make you laugh.
Oh,
I'm just saying Do you understand? Most people are not like you, Tony. Most
Oh,
people walk
definitely.
up to them and say, may I help you? They're going to say, no, thanks. I'm just looking, because they don't want to be sold.
Right.
I'll tell you, my favorite and my worst store in America is Nordstrom. I love to shop for clothes because I'm way overweight. Okay. I have a 1,100 square foot walk-in closet with my 300-pound clothes, my 280-pound clothes, and my 260-pound clothes. And I walk into Nordstrom's and I start looking at pants, and the salesperson will come over and say, may I help you? No, can I just have 10, 15 minutes to look around a little bit? Then I'll wave at you and you can come over and help me. Okay. I walk 3 steps, another salesperson comes up and says, may I help you? You can't hardly make a step in there. And finally, the one that drives me nuts is I'm there looking at jeans and looking through sizes, and the salesperson comes to me and says, can I help you find a size? No, I'm a moron. I can't find my own size. Are you kidding me? It just ticks me off like you can't believe. And that's the way it is with our customers. They want us to help them buy. They do not want to be sold. Period. End of quote. Even if you're different and unique and charming and all of those good things, and please don't take offense by anything I'm saying. I'm just trying to make this matter in the short amount of time I have. I'm respectful of other agents. I'm an agent. I'm proud to be an agent, and I support the actions of other agents. I just want you to do better. And until you get rid of that thought that you see, the way you actually said it, you actually think you're manipulating people when you ask them questions. That's not what you're doing. How many people have you ever come across? I'm talking even wealthy people who exactly know all the rules pertaining to taxes and retirement income and all. They don't know anything. And so what they're looking for is a resource, an advocate who will ask them the questions that nobody else asks them, so that they can use that information to calculate how they want to go forward. There are no women that want to be told what to do by a man anymore. There are no young people that want to be told what to do by anybody that's older. There are no older people want to be told what to do by younger people. Everybody's sick and tired of being told what to do by somebody. And the more they tell them what to do, the more they don't believe them. And so I don't tell anybody anything. I ask for their opinion, which everybody loves to give. And the more they share their opinion with me, the harder it is to get them to stop, because they love to share their opinion more than anything they do. And so that's kind of the fun, Tony, if that helps.
Oh, very helpful.
wanna-
Just the
you
fact
don't
that you
wanna-
put the tag, just the fact that you put the tagline on it. If you want to buy something, I will allow
I'll
you to
help
buy.
you to do that.
That's 100% answer. I'm good.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Okay, Brian asked me a question that I promised I would make him be the second question. So there we are. All right, Brian.
Okay. At the professionals forum, you indicated that you do a lot of single pay mech.
Tons of it.
And I have been searching high and low in your newsletters, as well as anything that maybe you could have made a posted online, to figure out, what kind of situation you would use that in. How do you approach clients about it? When would be the point in time to bring it out of the toolbox and use it? And I have struck out many times I feel like I'm already at a no-hitter level of trying to find any information on that. Even when I ask carriers about it, and we use companies that, try to get the most cash value in retirement for clients using, our strategy, and still can't get any real good answers or material. So is there anything you could provide to point me in the right direction?
Of course. I'm going to give you a short answer here, but I'm also going to give you my cell phone number.
I have your cell phone number. You gave it out at Nashville, and I wrote it down and put it in my phone.
And how many times have you called me?
None. I didn't make it to Milwaukee this summer. I was going to go out to pizza with you at your favorite place at the movie theater, and it just didn't get there this year.
So when I'm going to give you the short answer, and then call me and I'll give you a long answer and a whole bunch of companies.
Okay.
Again, is inflation going to be a real problem for people going forward? Brian?
Yes.
It is. It's going to be a serious issue. In fact, it's going to really reduce the standard of living of not only the Americans, but most of the world for that matter. So this is who I use, and I write tons of it on what you would call poor people and middle class people. Now, please understand, I have some rules if you'll write these down. The first rule is the Van Mueller rule of 5310, which you would call the Brian Summerfield rule of 5310. Okay. Or if it's your customer, if their name is Joe Customer, you'd call it the Joe Customer rule of 5310. What it tells you is that as a married couple over the age of 65, you can make $53,000 a year and you'll be in the 10% marginal tax bracket, but your effective tax rate will be 4.4%. Because you don't pay taxes on the first 30,700, that's a standard deduction, and you pay 10% tax on the next 22,000, which is 2,200 divided by 53,000 is 4.4%. Okay. Then the second rule, and the reason I'm going to stop at these two, I'll get to the bigger numbers, but I only have a certain amount of time here, is the Van Mueller rule of 12012. Or the Brian Summerfield rule of 12012, or the customer rule of 12012, which says a married couple over the age of 65 can make 120,000. They'll be in the 12% marginal income tax bracket, but their effective tax rate will be 8.6%. And the reason is they don't pay any taxes on the first 30,700. They pay 10% on the next 22,000, and they pay 12% on the next 63,000. Add it all up, comes to about $10,000 some $100 divided by 120 is 8.6%. Now, here's who I sell. I live in, you've been to Milwaukee, so you know where the state fair is.
Mm-hmm.
I have, I'll bet you 300 customers that live around the state fair in 900 to 1,400 square foot houses. And they're all older people. Not one of them pays any income tax because their standard deduction of 30,700 wipes out their income tax.
Yeah.
You got 30 or 40 or $50,000 in the bank, in a savings account, making nothing. I go to there, I stand up in front of them in their 800 square foot, if it's that big, kitchen, and I stand up and I take money out of my left pocket and I say, what if we could take that $40,000 that you have in the bank out of my left pocket and I can put it in my right pocket and I can make it look like 70,000 bucks. That's a single premium life policy.
Okay.
Here's what that means that you can do. While you're alive, if you need to use some of the cash value to maintain your standard of living, let's say you use $20,000 of the cash value to maintain your standard of living. When you die, we don't subtract the 20,000 from the 40,000 you gave me. We subtract the 20,000 from the 70,000 face amount. And now your family will still have a legacy of $50,000, even though you use 50% of the money while you were alive. I have another surprise for you. They go, what is that? I say, if you never need to touch any of this money without taking any additional risk and without giving up control of the money, you made 40,000 look like 70,000 for your family. Isn't that how families get wealthy? Don't they work together as families? And they say, well, how do we get that started? And I say, should we take a ride over to the bank? and I write 5 or 6 of those a week. 30,000, 20,000, 40,000. And then you're going to ask me, well, Van, if it's a MEC, isn't it taxable? Well, no, not if they don't pay any income tax. Hey,
Yeah.
so it's very, very, very little or nothing. And I don't have any competition. I don't see any of you people calling on any of those people. And I'm just driving around going, and they tell everybody, oh, I made my, and the way I do it, they say, I made my 40,000 look like 70,000. And the whole sale takes 10 or 15 minutes. It's not anything that, now let me go further. And please, I'm going to do this very fast, so don't beat me up on the math and everything, but I want to give you an example of somebody who gives you a lot of money. They give you, I'm going to use somebody who's 50 years old. They give you 200,000 and it buys 800,000 a face amount at 50 or 600,000 a face. Depends on their health and their sex and all of that stuff. And remember what I said, the whole presentation that I make to them is, what if there was a way that you'd never lose any money? And what if every time there was a bad thing that happened, you could access that money to take advantage of the opportunity? And what if you could do all of that with reduced or total elimination of your income tax liability? Would that be an amazing strategy? And they go, yeah. And I say, so I have companies that, and please, I sell for a lot of companies, but I'll give you an example of one company. They have two choices for their single premium. They have one that if you give them 200,000, it'll have a lower face amount, but the surrender value at the end of the first year is more than what you gave them. Wow. Then I have another, that same company that gives you a little higher death benefit, but it takes about 4 years, and then the surrender value is more than what you put in. So depending on what we're trying to do and how concerned the customer is with access to the money, that's how I choose. And I have, during COVID, I had 5 companies, I'm telling all of you, that as long as the face amount was not more than 50,000, even if they were 80 years old, they did not have to take a physical. Now, what do you think about those apples, baby? I mean, nobody gave me any grief. I was still writing policies like they were going out of style. All you got to do is discover how to find those companies and what to do with them. So anyway, the guy with the 200,000, let's say he bought the higher face amount, and so it takes to the 4th year. And in the 3rd year, his $200,000 annuity is still worth only $200,000. You with me so far, Brian?
Yes.
Stock market crashes off the mat. We finally have this economic disaster that we should have had 8 years ago that we're still waiting for. And I believe that the Dow is going to go down. You're not going to believe what I'm going to say to you. I think it's going to go down to below 20,000. I think this is going to be a hammer. There's no way that with all this bad economic news that eventually we don't have to pay for it. So it doesn't matter. Whatever it goes down to is fine. Don't assume that everything I just said about the market is wrong, because I don't know. But let's say the market goes down, and I went to that mech and I took out $150,000, threw it in the market after the government said this one sentence. This is how I'll know when to do it. Oh my God, we're the government. We got to fix this. We better stimulate the economy. You're laughing. You know, they do it every time. They tell you they're going to do it. And so you borrow. I do it every single time. You should see how much wealth I've built by every single time this happens. I borrow from all my life insurance policies. I throw it in the market for a period of time, make a pile of money. I made up a rule called the Van Mueller rule of 12-15. You have to stay fully invested for 12 months in a day. Why? Because then you get long-term capital gains tax treatment, and you got to pay the loan back within 15 months because you don't want any harm to come to the policy. Okay. So then I say that, so let's say on that 150,000, they made 40,000 bucks. It's not a big gain. 40,000 bucks out of the 150 they took out. So you pay the loan back. You paid a long-term capital gain on the 140,000. So let's say it's just, I'm going to just make it be 20%. So you end up with 32,000 net. I look them in the face and I say, can I ask you something? What do you think we should do with that 32,000? You know what they say? Well, shouldn't we get another one of these policies? And you guys, you got to get this. I have little old ladies that have 6, 7, 8 of these. Every time this happens, we do this. And I just had one that died. She was 91 years old. She had 11 policies. Her sons inherited 700 freaking thousand. And she lives in a 900 square foot house. That's what we did. Every single time this happened, we took advantage of it. And when her kids got the money, I got a question. Who do you think they gave the money to?
Yeah.
Uncle Van. You know, and so you're what I keep trying to say also is you're setting up the next sale. So let me come back. Brian, the guy took out 200,000. How much tax did he pay?
Since you're talking about as low a tax bracket that these people are in, the first chunk is at
No.
0%.
This is a guy that he put 200,000 in his
200. 20% federal max plus whatever the
He
state
didn't
is.
have a gain. No gain, no
payback.
tax. That's right. No gain, no tax, no
Yeah.
penalty, no anything. Do you get it, you guys? See, you've been told so much about, oh, you got to worry about it's going to be taxable, that you haven't gone through and done the process. Let's say that he had grown to 220,000. Okay, you with me so far? And he took out the same 150, and he's under 59 and a half. Okay, he would have to pay in his tax bracket, remember, effective tax bracket 8.6 if he's making less than 120,000 bucks a year. So 8.6% of 20,000 is less than 1,800 bucks. And the penalty on the 20,000 would be 2,000, 10%. So he's got to pay, ready, 3,800 bucks to get his hands on that money to make 40,000 bucks. I'm not done. When he pays it back, his new basis is not 200,000 anymore. It's 200,000 plus the 20 because he's already paid taxes on the 20. So his new basis is 220,000. See, I got to do this fast. So you have to call me on the phone and I'll do it slow with you. But I'm telling you, I can't write these up fast enough. And customers, they go, and agents that we teach it to, they go, well, how come the company didn't tell us that? The only thing they say is you should never write a MEC. I did 10 million of MECs last year. And here's what a MEC is. Simple explanation, everybody who's listening. While you're alive, a MEC is an annuity. When you die, a MEC is a life insurance policy. That's it. Man, do you understand how much money you can get control of doing that on behalf of your customers? It's very exciting. Can you tell I'm excited?
Yes.
I have three appointments after this. You don't want to be those appointments. You're toast.
All right. I got a quick question. We're gonna follow up with the bigger question. What company has that higher surrender value after the first year?
I'm not doing this live. You have to call me. I don't think that's fair to all the companies that
All right, fair enough. Okay. I got Joe has asked, and Joe's out of Hawaii. And Joe, he asked, how long are your appointments, especially the first two?
Joe, you're not going to believe this, but I usually don't have any. I know within 15 minutes whether I'm going to make a sale or not. And then after that, it's filling out the fact finder and proceeding from there. So I really don't have any appointments that last longer than 45 minutes to an hour. Because I come in just all questions ablazing, and they're talking and talking and talking. They're so exhausted from talking that they don't know what to do. They just, so Joe from Hawaii, I hope you guys are all safe, and I hope you're okay. And I love Hawaii very much. And Joe, I don't think that was a good enough answer, but I don't know how to answer you any other way. Remember, I told you I have a 5-question sales presentation: higher taxes, lower benefits, inflation, volatility, and longevity. And those are really main 5 issues, and they can branch out into all kinds of other conversations. And so I know in a very short amount of time whether I really have a prospective client or somebody who's just shopping around.
I'm Joe here. Hey, how's it, Van? Nice meeting you. Very interesting talk. Okay, so my thinking was, okay, this is with my second question in there was that, okay, I have a lot of friends and people that I haven't seen for years, and I've been too chicken to call them because I didn't really know how to get about, what to say, because I think I'm going to screw it up and stuff. But, like I was thinking, okay, if I take someone to lunch during the lunch hour talk, then can I just shoot the 5 questions just as a conversation burner thing?
Absolutely.
And then that's my appointment.
But you do it. Great question. Great question. Remember the script that I told you about when all those people that you haven't seen in years. Hi, this is Joe. And I was thinking, with everything that's happening in Hawaii right now, everything that's happening in our country, everything's happening in our world. First thought, are you okay? Second question. Do you have any questions about all this stuff that's going on and how it impacts you? And third, gosh, I can't tell you, I'm sorry, I should have said thank you more often. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your business, and I want to show you that I'm loyal to you. Any chance we could get together for breakfast or lunch, or I could just come and meet with you for half an hour, 45 minutes. And I got a series of questions that I'm going to ask you that'll help you clarify in your own mind. Do you have anything you need to worry about? First off, and second of all, what if there was actually a way that instead of just being safe, you could actually take advantage of all of these issues? Wouldn't that be amazing? And that's why I wanted to make sure before I went and watch how you do this. I wanted to make sure before I went and talked to anybody new, took care of my existing customers first.
Or friends.
Or friends, sure, or relatives or whatever. But you can say it whatever way I'm just trying to give you an example. And Joe, that's how you get referrals also, because if you go back there and you do that, and then you ask all these interesting questions, is there some reason you've decided you want the Internal Revenue Service to be primary beneficiary of your IRA and your 401k? I'm going to give you a question. It's question number 30 of my 40 questions. Joe, I'm going to tell you, I've asked this question, I'm not kidding, at least 25,000 times, and I have never, not once, had a customer say no. How would you like a question like that?
Yeah.
Ready?
Ready.
And it's just common sense. Grandma and grandpa, I don't call anybody seniors or over 65s or I know 50-year-old gorgeous women that don't mind being called grandma. Grandma and grandpa are power words, so you use them. So grandma and grandpa, if we could show you a way to stay in complete control of your money till you took your last breath, but instead of giving that money to the government, a nursing home, or a hospital, you could keep that money in your family for generations to come. At the very least, come on, even if you didn't do anything, wouldn't you want to know how to do that? What do you think they say, Joe?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow at, I'm going to fly to Hawaii and you're going to buy something from me. You guys are laughing. Tony, did you hear what I just said to him? That's how I talk. That's you're real. You want to be you. You don't want to be Van Mueller. You want to be the best Tony Sheets you can be, but your words matter. You want to be the best Ray see, I can't even say your Alkali. Did I say
Good
right?
job. Good job.
You want to be the best you can be, but you want to be you. You don't want to be me. Peter Nelson, he uses a lot of my lines, but he says them his way. They become his. It sounds like him. And so all I'm trying to say to you is that if you really listen, there's a lot of Ben Feldman and Roger Zener and Tom Wolfe and John Savage. And, you know, that's who I stole all this stuff from. You know, I don't have an original bone in my body. You can't re-say, all you do is re-figure out how to say these things so they sound like us. And so you just ask great questions. And that's the fun part of this. That's how this gets exciting. I can do this, everybody, for about another half an hour yet.
Joe, do we get to all the questions? You posted a few of them in there. Do we take care of them for you?
Okay. There was oh God, I wrote it down. See, I usually write my questions down so I don't forget. And I need to go back into the chat to look. Sorry.
David, let's take another question while we're waiting for Joe.
That's all right. And by the way, Van, I am also a big researcher because pretty much I quoted you when I was quoted in Tom Hegna's new book. So I didn't accredit it to you. I just legally stole it.
Hey, Van.
Yeah, we always say if you steal one thing, it's theft. If you steal a whole bunch of stuff, it's research.
I live by that. All right, Peter.
Van, I think it might be helpful for these guys if you just maybe talk a little bit about how you go into the 5 questions and then the emotional fact finder, then the factual fact finder.
Yes.
You talked about it a little bit, but I think that'd be really helpful for them.
Yes, that's what I was.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I've developed an emotional fact finder and a factual fact finder. The emotional fact finder has only 5 questions. It turns into 100. Easy. So the customer, let's say I say to the customer, so let me ask you something about how do you want to deal with this? And they say, well, I don't know. I said, so you're just going to let them raise your taxes? Well, if you were me, what would you do? And I say, well, in order to really answer that question, I'd have to ask you some additional questions to help you clarify in your own mind how you'd like to proceed. It's always about them. You really got to understand this. It's always about them. So then I say, here's the questions. The first question is, what do you want to happen when you die? And they're going to say every single time, well, what do you mean? And I say, well, pretend you died last night, got run over by a truck. Now, what do you want to happen? You want your family to stay living in this house? Do you want the kids to still go to college? What do you want to happen? Well, I never really thought about that. Well, when do you plan on thinking about it? Before or after you die? And I have some fun with them and I chuckle, and please, you got to understand, I don't want it to get too serious. It's a conversation. I'm trying to build trust when you have a conversation. The way I would say it to you guys, think about the first time you fell in love and you got on the phone and you had this conversation with this person and you were on the phone for 2 or 3 hours and you go, man, it hardly seemed like I was on the phone at all. And it's 2 or 3 hours later and oh my goodness, you know, it was amazing talk. That's how a conversation should be with a customer, with a new customer. And so I ask them, what do you want to happen when you die? And I follow up with these other questions and they tell me and I write it down. And then I repeat what I wrote down. So you want this, this, and this. What do you want to happen when you become disabled? Do you want to turn a physical catastrophe into an emotional catastrophe? And they say, well, what do you mean? And I say, well, lots of times, if people don't have protection against loss of income, they end up having to get a divorce so they qualify for benefits. Is that what you want to happen if something would happen? And they go, well, no. I say, so what's your strategy to make sure that's not going to happen? Then the third question is, what do you want to happen when you have a critical illness like a heart attack, stroke, or cancer? Do you want to lose your home or would you prefer to lose your mortgage? And they think about it for a minute. And, yeah, I think I'd prefer to lose my mortgage. So what's your strategy to make sure that you're going to be able to do that if something happens? And what if there was a way that the stress job that you have caused you to have the heart attack? And what if we could provide money that would allow you to re-educate yourself so you wouldn't have to go back to that particular job? Wouldn't that be amazing? And then the fourth question is, what do you want to happen when you go into the nursing home? And statistically, the numbers are going up dramatically. Something like over 75% of all the people in America that turn 65 will see some kind of long-term care. I mean, it's a big deal. And it's not going to be in a nursing home. What's going to be devastation to families right now, according to AARP, 1 out of every 5 Americans is an unpaid family caregiver, and it's mostly the women. And what ends up happening is they lose the second income for the family that's giving the care, and it causes real stress with them and the person receiving the care plows through their money before they need the help from the family member. So there's not much left for anybody. It's devastating to families. And it's, you know, stop and think, 1 out of every 5 American families is going to face up to. And the last question is, what do you want to happen when you retire? Do you want to be an old man, or do you want to be an elderly gentleman? Do you want to be a dignified woman, or do you want to be a bag lady? Which would you prefer? And those are the 5 things. Again, back to, I'm always about 5 things if you're really paying attention. So what do you want to happen when you die? And I think, by the way, dying too soon is going to be one of the major things in our country, because there's so many people going into debt. I don't know if you saw recently, but in the last few days, our country went to over $1 trillion in debt in credit cards. And now many Americans are using credit cards not for points, they're using them to pay for essentials like food and gas for their cars and so forth. So this is going to get really, really hairy very soon, much sooner than anybody imagines. Inflation is much worse than is being described. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but housing is not included and housing prices are ridiculously high. In fact, they're still battling. If they say the house is 300,000, there's people that offer to pay 330 or 340 or 350 because there's just not enough product out there. And so even with 7% mortgages, inflation on housing has gone up dramatically, just dramatically. And so what's really interesting is that's about 30% of the economy of the United States, and they don't use housing in the calculation for inflation. It's hilarious. Gas prices will be over $5 a gallon pretty soon again. There's all kinds of issues that are coming. So inflation is going to get hairy. I don't know if in the newsletter, it'll be in next month's newsletter, but a lot of people don't know this. Do you know that July, August, and September are the 3 months that they use to determine the inflation increase for Social Security? They don't use the whole year. They use July, August, and September. And so it's going to be probably in the low 3% number for inflation of your Social Security. Why would you want to know that now? And the answer is easy. So you can do tax planning for next year. You can do all kinds of planning for that extra 3%. Can we take that extra 3% and plow that into a life insurance policy to offset the damage inflation is doing, and so forth and so on? Again, lots of conversations like that. So then once I get that done, watch, you guys. I have a lot of fun. Hope you're seeing this. What ends up happening then is I say, okay, go get your last 5 years income tax returns, go get me all your policies and all your investments, and we're going to write it down, and we're going to see if what we put down on the emotional fact finder can be done with what you've got set up so far. And I'll write down all their income. I label the years and I write down all their income tax. And you want to know a fun way to calculate their retirement income? You take their income when they're in their 50s, late 50s, early 60s. Let's just for grins, let's say it's 100,000 a year. And let's say that they're putting, they pay 15,000 of federal tax, they pay a few $1,000s of state tax, they pay Social Security tax, they pay Medicare tax, and then let's say that they're contributing 10,000 a year to their 401k. So their net income is really about 75,000, 6,000 a month, something like that. And when you look, my Social Security is $4,500 a month, and when Pamela retires, that'll bring her and I up to over $6,000 a month just from our Social Security. So if that was our number, and that'll be the number for a lot of people, they wouldn't need to do anything other than just live off of their Social Security, which Brian, by the way, would mean they wouldn't be paying any income tax liability at all. And they'd have lots of money that you could take out of their 401k, their 403b, their IRA, that you could reposition in non-taxable things. And again, I don't have time to show you that presentation, but man, when I'm working, I pick up $1 million a week from people like that every single week. I did 45 million of production last year. It was just easy. And so it's about asking these questions. Why are you doing it this way? What if you could do it this way? So anyway, I fill out all their so that's a way that you can find out what their income goal should be. So let's say they're going to get 4,500 from their Social Security, then they need that 6,500 to 72,000 number. Okay, so you just show them with your assets, you can get this amount of income. So you're way closer than you think you are. All you got to do is this, this, and this, and you'll be able to achieve your retirement goal. Wouldn't that be amazing? So instead of telling them they're far away, I'm telling them they're closer than they think. Okay, always moving them closer to the presentation. So anyway, then I write down all their stuff, and then they get to their IRAs and 401ks. Please watch this, you guys. I go, oh, wow. And then they give me their life insurance policies, and they got 3 or 4 of them. Watch this. Sometimes I can even make myself cry. This is how fun this gets. You know, oh my God. Oh. Oh. And I'll do that. Sometimes I'll sit there and do that for 5 minutes. And finally, they just can't stand anymore. And they say, well, what's the matter? And I say, can I ask you a dumb question? I take the paper. Can I ask you a dumb question? When you had the chance, why didn't you buy more of this? What were you thinking? That's not what they're expecting. Do you get what I just did? I don't want to take them away from what I want them to do. I want to take them closer. So I said to them, when you had the chance, why didn't you do more of this? Look at, you're in your 23rd year of your policy. You paid in $2,000 on this premium and your dividend was $2,300 and your cash value went up by this much. Do you have anything else that's doing anything like this? This is amazing. When you had the chance, why didn't you do more of this? And they look at me, I'm telling you, it's 75% of the time, and they say, well, can I still get some more of that? I almost fall out of my chair laughing. It's so funny because you think they're sitting around thinking about this stuff all the time, and they're not. It's your job to ask them the questions that will inspire them to want to find out about this information. That's what makes it fun. It's supposed to be fun. And so when I get done, I just ask them all those questions. I say, so now you know you can do this. You're this close to meeting your retirement goal. You want to get rid of these income tax liabilities for your family. Which one do you want to do first? And when do you want to get started? And then they finally say, well, I want to do this, this, and this. And I say, well, you know, the only last thing that we have to do, watch how I close them. Now that you know how much value you can build for you and your family, what kind of value do you want to build? I had a guy thought he was going to buy a $2,000 a year policy. And he says, well, I can usually put 25 or 30,000 bucks a year into something like that. And I'd been there 3 times in the past, and 2,000 was the number. And when I got done explaining the way a life insurance policy really works, he said, boy, I could put 25, 30,000 a year into a strategy like that. And I said, so I'll tell you what, why don't we start with 25,000? When you see how good this does, then we could probably raise it all the way up to 40. Would that be okay? He said, yeah, that sounds like a perfect plan. And that's how fun it is. You just, I want you to understand, and I hope what you're seeing is that this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to build relationships with people. I care about my people. They're my friends. I go to their graduations, their birthdays, their weddings, their funerals, their everything. I'm in their lives. And they take really, really good care of me.
Wow. All right. That's
Peter, does that
fantastic.
help?
No, that was very helpful. I think it was really good for the guys that, you know, don't know your process as well. Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Perfect. I didn't see any other questions coming through. Come on, this is a good chance. Anybody dying for one?
They're sick of me. And it's already, we have I can stay about another 10 minutes if anybody has another question.
Well, I have one if no one else does. I always have questions because I was taught by this guy. So you always got to have questions. So it's feeling like October could be a fairly nasty month for the market. Just, you know, historically Octobers can be fairly nasty at times. Is that what you're first seeing, or do you think it's going to happen a little bit later? Because the math is, or the data is still showing there will be a recession next year.
Peter, you're going to laugh with me, but I just made a nice sale to a guy. And when I sat down with him, I said, hi, my name is Van Mueller. And he says, I know that. And I said, but I want to make sure that you understand a couple of things before you even go a step further. He said, what is that? I said, you know, if you'd have been sitting here with me in 2016 on this very date, I'd have told you the crash was imminent, and I've been wrong for 7 years. I tell every single customer. I don't have any problem telling them I'm wrong because there's nobody that knows. Now watch how I get out of it. I get out of it every time. You guys ready? Raise your hand if you're ready. So I know you're still listening. Okay, ready? Watch this. I say, can I ask you something? Why was I wrong? I asked them to tell me why I was wrong. And they say stuff like, well, the government's printing money or the government's manipulating stuff or boy, yeah. And then I compliment them. I said, boy, you really know, you do understand. So eventually, aren't we going to have to pay for all this ridiculousness? What do you think? And then I get them telling me again, it's not my opinion that matters, Peter. I don't ever make those predictions anymore because please, everybody, I have no problem telling you I've been wrong more than I've been right. So I don't make predictions anymore. But I've also learned, it was very hard for my ego to learn. My opinion doesn't matter. The only opinion that matters is that of my prospect or my client. And I should be doing everything I can to find out what their opinions are. And I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you all a question now. If you were trying to prove to somebody that you had their best interest at heart, would you talk about yourself and your company and your product, or would you ask about them? And you know the answer, you'd ask about them. So why aren't you doing that all the time? We have a saying in the insurance industry, when you're in trouble in a sales presentation, what should you do? And the answer is ask a question. So then that leads to a next question. If that's the case, then shouldn't you assume that you're always in trouble in a sales presentation? Again, then please, do you understand how many apps I've written all over the years? Do you understand in 50, almost 51 years of being an insurance agent, this was way back when I was selling health insurance at the beginning, I got one insurance department complaint. I've never gotten in any trouble because I don't tell anybody anything. It's their opinion. I write it down. I have proof that it was their opinion. They told me what to do. I'm just asking them the questions. The best way I can, Tony, the best way I can explain it, because we were talking about this before, is I have never met one single customer in 50 years who had organized thinking about life insurance, taxes, investments, and so forth. And I consider my questions a way for them to organize in their mind how they want to proceed and what risks they're willing to take and what risks they're not. And I've learned so many lessons. I have a customer in Saukville who we started with 250,000, raised him to like almost $800,000 in assets. And I thought the guy loved me. And I asked him, I said, will you take a flyer with me? I got an investment that's, I think, really aggressive. Just give me $2,000 and let's see what we can do with it. Got a statement in the mail that it was now worth $1,600, called me on the phone almost in tears. And he said, I don't want you losing any of my money. Didn't matter what I did for him in the past. I really understood that I was never going to give this guy anything where he got a statement that showed that he lost any money. That's how you find out. You really ask these people, if you ever got a statement in the mail that showed that you lost money, how bad would you kill me? That's how I ask them, then I know not to give them anything aggressive. And the ones that I do choose to be aggressive with, I say, do you understand this is a team? You and me, we're doing this together. I'm not doing this on my own. If you want me to do this on my own, then you need to go and hire another advisor. If you're willing to help me and keep track of it every day and keep me informed as to what you're liking and what you're not liking, then I'm happy to help you proceed more aggressively. That way, that's how I stay in control of all of it, you guys. It's very easy.
I have a question.
Hey, Ray. Who is
It's
it?
Jen.
Oh,
It's Jen.
Jennifer. Hey, Jen.
Now, with all of these questions that you're asking, and I think I know the answer, but I just want to make sure. Do you ever use any Zoom, any PowerPoint presentation slides at all for teaching, or is it just all questions?
It's all, I don't use PowerPoint. I don't I don't leave anything with the customer. In fact, let me ask you guys something. Anybody in here able to show me one illustration that's ever been accurate? There's no such thing. They don't exist. Want to hear something that's going to blow your mind? You're going to get mad at me. Even the guarantees are not accurate. Even the guarantees are not accurate. And so please, I don't sell off of, let me show you really quick. Are you willing to stay for a couple more minutes, everybody? Just to go, I'll show you how I sell a life insurance policy. Customer, I say, let me ask you something. And I do this with young people and I do this with older people. I say, here's the deal. Let me ask you something. What if I could show you a way that there was something that you could put your money into where you'd never lose your money ever again? That's a cash value life insurance policy. Second, what if every time something bad happened, you had access to that money so that you could take advantage of the opportunity no matter what happened? That's a cash value life insurance policy. Third, what if you could do all of that with reduced or total elimination of your income tax liability? What if you could also use those same funds for protection? If you died too soon, if you needed critical illness, if you needed long-term care, I think the number one benefit of a cash value life insurance policy in the next 25 years will be to pay for long-term care. Sorry, that's what I think it's going to be. That's going to be a big deal with 100 million people over the age of 55. Are you kidding me? We're going to have to find a way to pay. And by the way, 7,000 nursing homes went bankrupt last year, 7,000 more this year. There's only going to be about 7,000 to 10,000 nursing homes left to take care of 100 million people. Are you kidding? Most of the care is going to be given at home by an unpaid family caregiver. Or if you know what you're doing with life insurance and stuff, you can have the caregiver be a paid caregiver. And when the person dies, the money used to pay the family caregiver will be reimbursed. So there's still a legacy for the family. Oh my God, what an intriguing idea. Amazing. But so I said to this guy, the guy that gave me the 30,000, I said, so stop and think, if you give me $10,000 a year, at the end of 10 years, you're going to have almost $100,000 of cash value. And he looked at me and he goes, well, Van, that sounds like it didn't make anything. And I said, boy, you'd think that, but can I ask you a couple of questions? This is the Ed Slott line. You're going to hear this. I stole it dead bang from Ed Slott. Didn't you just take $100,000 of forever tax money and turn it into $100,000 of never tax money? And second, didn't you make that 100,000 look like 200, 300, 400, 500,000, depending on how old they are and what their health is and so forth? I said, man, do you know anything else in the world that can do what we're talking about right now? And they go, no. Sometimes they even say, well, don't get mad. And I said, I'm not mad. I'm just enthusiastic about what a wonderful decision you're making. And I want to make sure that nobody derails how beneficial this is. And you understand the main benefit of it is the flexibility, the reduced or no income tax, the ability to use leverage. Do you understand that you could use most of the cash value while you're alive? And when you die, the death benefit will replenish all the money you used while you were alive. That can pay for critical illness, that can pay for long-term care, and so forth and so on. Are you kidding me? Do you know any other benefit that can do stuff like that? And so the point I'm just making to you is I think cash value life insurance will be the benefit of the next 25 years. If we can get people to get out of CDs, get out of savings accounts, get out of money markets, get out of short-term bond funds, get out of checking accounts, and stuff their money into cash value life insurance policies, they are going to be able to offset inflation. They're going to be able to handle long-term care better than they ever thought they would be able to. And they're going to be able to reduce or even eliminate their income tax liability. Now, gosh, if you knew you could do that, when would you want to get started? And that's the guy that said, God, I didn't know it did all of that. And I said, so now that you know all the benefits that you can do, how much value do you want to build for you, your family, and your business? And that's the guy that went from 2,000 a year to 25 to 30,000 a year. That's the question I ask. How much value do you want to build for you and your family or you and your business?
I got a quick question, Van.
Yes, sir, Ray.
What's your thoughts on the whole BRICS removing the dollar from the as a reserve currency? How much of an impact is going to have and how fast, if that does happen?
It is gonna happen. It'll probably happen within a decade. I think you're already seeing with the Federal Reserve experimenting with digital currency. And you have to understand, it's the end of freedom as we know it. Once the rest of the world is looking for some kind of digital currency that where it doesn't favor America or China or England or, who was the digital currency, I mean, the reserve currency before us. They're looking for some way to establish something like that. And then what they're also going to do is if we lose our reserve currency status, and there's more and more talk of it because we're devaluing the purchasing power of the dollar pretty dramatically, and it's really harming the economies of emerging nations and other things like that pretty badly. Even Germany hates paying for petroleum with dollars. People don't realize there's more what they call, I'm going to say the wrong word. It's not petrodollars. There are dollars that are not in the United States, dollars that are around the world, and they're called something, and I just can't think of the name right now. I'm having a stroke right in front of you guys. So one of the things I hope you also see, and I'm going to put this in here real quick, and then I'm going to finish answering Ray's question. I always use sense of humor to reduce the tension, and the humor is always at my expense. Always. If you can make a customer laugh, you can take away a lot of the stress. So you come on, we have a little fun with me. Can we try something? Can I ask you something really dumb? I'd be really curious about your answer. Do you see where I'm going? It's always make it humor, reduces stress. So anyway, Ray, I agree with you. And, Peter asked about the economy. This is what makes it also hard to make a guess. That's all it is a swag. A swag is a scientific wild ass guess.
So how do you, if somebody has that issue and they think about the BRICS and the dollar not being the currency, how are insurance companies gonna manage that? Is there a thought that you have about that?
Of course, they're going to adjust, and they'll adjust to the digital currency. In fact, whether you believe it or not, they're already doing that. They're already allowing for some of that. And second, here's a different way to say it. Let's assume that I'm wrong. And I say that to the guy. Let's assume I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. You still, while we know what is real, want to take advantage of the rules the way they are, the laws the way they are, and then we'll keep our relationship. And as we find out the changes they make, we'll make adjustments so that you can participate in a positive way rather than a negative way. Wouldn't that be a great reason for you and I to work together? You follow me, Ray?
That's great. Thank you.
I'm always trying to stay, and I don't overpromise. I hope you're seeing that. I've never told the customer, I know you're not gonna, never told the customer they're going to make money on cash value life insurance. Ever. Not one time. If you give me this money for 10 years, at the end of 10 years, you'll have almost that amount of cash value.
Yep.
I just, that way I don't get in any trouble. I don't overpromise, but I show them that now I have the flexibility of using that money any way I need to, because it's accessible income tax free. It's accessible the same way a savings account would be accessible. And remember, during all the bad times in history, the Great Depression, World Wars, the Great Recession, so forth and so on, did anybody ever not have access to their values in their life insurance or their annuities? And so, again, great place to have your money.
All right. I think we're out of time now. We're at 11:47 Pacific time. And Vandy, you do have a hard stop, more or less. So I want to thank everybody for coming on board, asking your questions.
David, one more. Just please, if you're not a subscriber to the newsletter, I work very, very hard on it. I read thousands of pages every month, and I put sales ideas. This month in the August newsletter, which just came out on the 5th, I actually did a sales presentation where there are no questions in it. And I asked everybody to read it out loud that are subscribers, because I want them to understand, even though it sounds like a great presentation, It doesn't work because if a attention span of an American is measured in seconds, if they're not participating, they're not going to listen, they're not going to understand, they're not going to get it. And so please, if you're not a subscriber to the newsletter, a way for me to touch you on a regular basis is go to vanmiller.com. It's only $19.95 a month. It's not any kind of ridiculous money. And for that, you get a newsletter every month with 7 sales ideas, and you get a Zoom 5 days after the newsletter is a live Zoom, and then you get to keep a copy of that Zoom forever that you can listen to over and over and over again with ideas like what we've been talking about here. So please, I can't tell you, I don't know whether you believe me or not, but I love agents and I love to be around other agents. And I think the great benefit of NAFA and MDRT and Top of the Table and the forum and all of those places is not the meeting itself, because the meetings are starting to suck. MDRT sucks. Top of the Table sucks. NAFA really sucks. The meetings aren't worth the powder to blow them. What is worth the powder to blow them is the members. Being around all of you, that's the secret. That's what we miss the most, is we need to be around each other. Because I'm telling you, every time I go to a meeting, I come home with an idea, not from somebody on the main platform, that includes me, that I come home with a sales idea from somebody that I was having lunch or breakfast with, or was sitting and having a drink with, and they went, yeah, I had a case just like that, and here's what I did. And I go, oh my God, I never even thought of that. And that's what we need. We need to be around each other as much as humanly possible. So I'm grateful to all of you for giving me some of your time today. And I hope that you see how much I love being an agent. And why do I keep bringing that up to you? Because I think your customers buy that from you too. They want to see that you really love what you do. If you really love what you do, they want to be with you. There's a lot of times, I know some of you are analyticals. They don't understand what the heck you're talking to them about. I know they don't. But they like you so much that they take a flyer and they say, I'm still going to go to, I'm Ray. I don't know what the hell you're saying, but Ray, I want you to be my agent. And that's, I'm telling you that you have to understand. That's why to have these great conversations with everybody. You're amazing. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope this was beneficial in some way. And please, again, Brian knows my phone number, but if you don't, it's 414-881-6246. Again, 414-881-6246. I'm in the Central Time Zone, and that's my cell. So if you would please text me first, say who you are, so we don't, because I'm running appointments all day, and say, please, will you call me back? You ask everybody, I will call you back. I do. I hope you see how much I love talking about this stuff, and I want to help. And so there's lots of stuff that I can still talk to you about, but I can't do it in this forum. I can do it over the phone with you. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That reminds me, the first time I called you without texting you first, and I forgot the 2-hour time difference. It was like 10 p.m. your time. You're ready to get on a flight. Anyway, but that was, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. So anyway, everybody, thank you so much for coming on board. Thank you so much. And yes, I agree with you, Van. The meeting between meetings is where the real value is of everybody just getting together. And, you don't know what you're going to learn just by being around everybody, which is why I like the professionals forum coming up in next February, and other events that you can make sure you get around to. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you all so much, and we'll catch you for the next one whenever I get one scheduled. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.